Hi, Brian.
Hi, everyone. We've got people kind of trailing in. We do have more than 270 folks on already. So we'll wait another minute or two before we call the meeting to order. So just hang tight, take a deep breath, relax, and thank you. Maybe I'll take that natural break in the music to get things started, unless. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Graham. I am the current chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee, and welcome to our 2020-2022 reorganization meeting. It is 7:34, and I'm calling this meeting, and we have a quorum, and I'm calling this meeting to order. The virtual meeting instructions. So this is a Zoom meeting. Hopefully, by this point in time in the pandemic, most of us understand how to raise our hand. If you don't, there should be reactions. That's how you can indicate that you would like to speak if we're having a discussion. The chat window is open, and I see people are using it, but it's kind of hard to make sure that we catch everything while it's scrolling. So don't use the chat meeting or chat window for meeting business. We may miss items in chat, so if you would like to make a motion or something, do that by claiming the floor and raising your hand, rather than doing something in chat. And then I think most of us are familiar now with the Zoom poll feature. when we have a question where we will have a poll, the Zoom poll will be launched, and you'll get to choose your option. You may need to, if you're on a tablet or something, you might need to kind of swipe out of the screen view to see the poll. When you make your selection, the voting window will disappear, and then after you've made your selection, or after voting has closed, we will share the results, and you'll be able to see that happen. So that is that. We do have a kind of a slightly different agenda from a reorganization perspective. And to kick things off, I would like to appoint or kind of recommend the appointment of Paul Davis, who is the outgoing Vice Chair North and first Vice Chair of FCDC, to take over this meeting as temporary chair, and also appoint Kenny Bledsoe as the secretary of this meeting. So he would remain the secretary for the duration of this meeting. He is the outgoing recording secretary of FCDC. So without objection, those appointments are so made, and I can turn the meeting over to Mr. Davis.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The first order of business this evening will be the adoption of the rules. The temporary rules are on the floor for consideration. Is there any discussion? Cool. Oh, I have a hand. Acknowledge Stephen Spitz.
Yeah, I just have a question. How are you going to differentiate those folks who are not members from the members for voting purposes?
I believe that Jack is tracking the people that are coming in for this process, and so they can track it that way. That's kind of how it's happening, but also it's all racialized. And I believe that's what the process is. That they are tracking people who are, as they come in, as they let you into the room. So that's how I believe they're differentiating the two groups. But I would defer to Jack if he is around, just to verify that answer. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. They're tracking everybody who's coming in. That's normal procedure. So they know. Is that sufficient, Mr. Spitz? Dan Press.
Unmute me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the question is it possible, just to follow up on what Steve just raised, is it possible to track the identity of the voters through the system, Jack? If I may, Mr. Chair, address the question to Jack. Okay.
Except that is.
But we can tell whether a guest, visitor, non-member, what do we call them, non-voting member, is trying to vote. Okay, thank you. Then I move we adopt the rules as submitted.
Okay. Rachel Rice.
Second, the adoption of the rules.
Awesome. Okay. If there's no objection, no more further discussion, The rules are adopted, right? Yeah, need to vote. So if that is clear, we can move on to the next order piece of business. Next order of business is nominations for county chair. Brian Graham has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Oh. Kate Spears, is this related to a nomination? Wait, one sec.
I was going to second the nomination of Brian Graham.
Okay. Okay. So any additional nominations? Hearing no additional nominations, nominations are closed. Can I get a second to close nominations? Jeff Pars, are you seconding that nomination, to close nominations? Jeff Pars?
I'm trying to unmute. All
Yes.
right, I've unmuted myself. So I was hoping to move by acclamation that we elect Brian and forestall an actual election other than by acclamation. Thank you.
Works for me. So ballot ejection nominations are closed and we move forward, and Brian Graham is by acclamation the new chair of FCDC. And then new chair can take over the meeting.
I mean, I think we actually need to technically
Oh,
vote
take a vote?
on.
All right. Okay. All those in favor of Brian Graham as chair. Yeah.
Do I have that capability? Oh, I don't have it open, but I can launch it. No, let me stop sharing too.
Looks like everybody has. Probably 31 seconds. Yeah, everybody has voted. So Jack, I'm going to end the poll. Oh.
I just made it.
Just made it.
Just barely.
So Brian Graham is elected the chair of FCDC, and the new chair can take over the meeting again.
All right, thank you, Paul, and thank. I mean, really want to thank everyone who ever steps up for FCDC leadership. The folks that are outgoing, like yourself, that that are now taking another role as Hunter Mill chair. So, but thank you. We've done. I feel like we've done okay over the last 2 years. I mean, we've done a pretty good job in Fairfax, just in general. And of course, we didn't win this last election statewide, but there's lots of work for us to do over the next 2 years as we head into new districts and new county elections next year, new school board meetings or school board votes and such. So a lot to look forward to. But I do really appreciate your support. I was really hoping someone would run against me, but no such luck. And I guess you're stuck with me for another 2 years. So thank you. Next, we can move on to nominations for the other offices. And give me a second. I think I might have confused my screens for a second. Oh, no, that's right. Okay. All right. So before this meeting, a number of nominations were made for our officers. And those are the ones that are listed on the screen here. There are, as of this moment, there is no official nomination for recording secretary. But for corresponding secretary, Tina Barczyk is nominated. For treasurer, Nadja Golding is nominated. For assistant treasurer, Andrew Scalise is nominated. For vice chair north, Stephanie Sedgwick is nominated. For vice chair central, Manisha Singh is nominated. For vice chair south, Paul Jameson is nominated. For vice chair finance, Saddam Salim is nominated. For vice chair precinct ops, Maggie Burke and Maria Vorel have nominated themselves as co-chairs. For vice chair of outreach, which assuming that a bylaws change is passed, that becomes the vice chair of diversity and outreach, Nellie Samaniego and Shamli Hoth have been nominated as co-chairs. For vice chair of technology, Tyler Begley is nominated. And for vice chair of voter registration, Camden Layton is nominated. I will say that there is someone interested in being recording secretary, but they are not yet a member of FCDC. They are, if we approve them later in the meeting, we could approve them to be recording secretary. And that is Deborah Woolen. But at this point, I'm opening the floor for if there are any other nominations. So Mr. Press has his soap. So please raise your hand at this point if you have another nomination. I mean, if there are no other nominations for these offices, they could be elected by acclamation. Rachel Rice is raising her hand. Rachel. Oh, now we have more hands. Rachel Rice, go ahead. Oh, I have to ask you to unmute first.
Thank you. I would move that the full slate be elected by acclamation. And I'm gonna guess that one of the other hands up is a second for that or a motion for the same thing.
I second it.
Okay. It is moved and seconded that we adopt or that we elect these positions by acclamation. And I believe that there is a poll for that. Oh. Okay. And Bill, you have your hand raised while that's happening. Did you have another question or comment? As we're waiting to.
Yeah, this is Bill Millhauser in Mason District. I mean, I know most of the people who have nominated or been nominated.
Oh,
Or nominated
that is an excellent
themselves.
point. We're supposed to, this is your, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So the rules do state that, that these people, I would like for these people to talk. And the rules state that they are allowed to speak. So, I would like to go down the list so that they can talk a little bit about why we should elect them. Was that your request?
Yes, it is. I'm not asking for long dissertations, but 3 or 4 points, key points that people would, make us understand who they are and what they'd like to do in the position. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So going down the list, just in the order that I have on the screen, Tina Barczyk, would you like to say anything?
I think I did a decent job during COVID of trying to raise funds for FCDC. It's my interest to participate in different aspects of FCDC so I could understand it. I've done precinct operations before. I'm a Walker, I participate in many things on steering. I'd like to continue in the capacity to sit on steering and help as well as I can. Thanks.
Thanks, Tina. Next, we have our treasurer, Nadja Golding, who really probably doesn't need any introduction whatsoever, but
Okay, so I just wanted to say I would like to serve for one more term, and I hope that you will support me. I've been working on this position for a long time, and I hope I've done a good job and earned your support. Thank you.
next, Assistant Treasurer Andrew Scalise.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Andrew Scalise, currently Assistant Treasurer running again. The primary role of the Treasurer and the Assistant Treasurer are compliance and financial reporting. I'm a practicing CPA and Assistant Controller at Georgetown University and use those skills to assist Nadja whenever she's gone run the accounting show, and then also make sure that we're compliant every month in our FEC and State Board of Elections filings. So hope to have your support again. Thanks.
Vice Chair North, Stephanie Sedgwick.
Yeah, hi, I'm Stephanie Sedgwick. I've run precinct ops for Drainsville for the past 2 years. I chaired the Foster Kid Holiday Drive. Thank you to everyone who contributed. And I developed the door hanger program, which we expanded outside of Drainsville with the cooperation of some of the other districts. I hope to bring that same kind of strategic planning to FCDC, work with our electeds and candidates to run successful campaigns and continue the programs we have that already work. Thank you.
Vice Chair Central, Manisha Singh.
Hi all, good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is Manisha Singh and I'm currently serving as Vice Chair Central, which includes the District of Providence, Mason and Braddock. And I'm asking for your vote and support for my re-elections to serve for another 2 years. The last 2 years have been challenging, pushing us to consider creative ways of engaging and organizing under the leadership of Brian, and along with my fellow vice chairs and rest of the team, we have made effective changes to how we do business and maintain continuity and improving functionality. Everything that contributed to keeping Fairfax blue and increasing turnout, all the while keeping our members and their families safe and healthy. And as we walk into another year that demands creative thinking and hard work, I would like to ask you for your support in giving me another opportunity to serve as the Vice Chair Central. Thank you.
Vice Chair South, Paul Jameson.
Yeah, hi. You hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay. So I sent out a fairly lengthy email explaining why I'm running, but just to summarize, the next 2 years are the more crucial 2 years in the life of a county committee because there's no statewide campaign or national campaign, and it's up to us more than anything else. And this is the years where we have to be organized at the county level to really make sure we elect Democrats all up and down and spread the wealth. And we have probably some tough issues coming up, especially at the school board. There has been some redistricting going on, so we may have elections this year, maybe next year, but we'll have some crucial elections going on because of the redistricting. And so it's very important that we just totally coordinate with the campaigns, and that is kind of be my focus for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Vice Chair Finance, Saddam Salim.
District Democratic Committee, where the last 2 years we accomplished a lot, from fundraising to doing a lot more things through the pandemic, and to take on the role of Vice Chair for Finance gives me another opportunity to go and bring those strategies and fundraise at the FCDC level. So I hope I can count on your vote.
Okay, co-vice chairs for precinct ops, Maggie.
Yeah,
Maggie,
hi, thank you.
Maggie
I'm
got
gonna
bold and Maria Vorel, but Maggie first, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, Maria and I are going to split this. We'll go real fast here. So hi, everybody from FCDC. Really appreciate all your hard work. Maria and I did send out an email so you know a little bit about our background. The 2 points I want to make is President Biden always talks about how we're in a battle for democracy, but we're in a war for democracy, and sometimes you lose battles. So those of you who haven't been around for a while were probably disappointed last year. I mean, I was disappointed too, but there's an election every year. We've got a chance to make a big difference this year. And so it's really, really important. Every single one of you needs to help us contribute, whether it's with canvassing or writing postcards or dropping door knockers, whatever it is. And Maria and I are really looking forward to helping us organize on the ground. Over to you, Maria.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Vorel. I have been a precinct captain for a long time and vice chair precinct ops for Mount Vernon. Precinct operations is a lot of work, and it really takes a team. Maggie's talking to all of you. I was to be part of it, but we have a very working committee on the precinct ops committee. We have reps from all the districts, and it's really been a great team to work with over the past 2 years. We use the committee to form consensus on process, policy, and logistics that manage all of the operations that we do out in the field. Last 2 years, think about it. We had a lot of change with COVID as it affected elections, and also with the no excuse early voting. We had 45-day sites. We had to flip onto that sort of thing. We basically had to create product for 4 different efforts over the course of the year. So I'm committed to pulling together all of our districts to continue that great teamwork. We also did a lot of inter-committee work with other parts of FCDC, and I think that's really important to maintain a really strong force. So Maggie and I would ask you for your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next for Vice Chair Outreach, which is presumably Diversity and Outreach, Noelle Maniego and Shamli Hoth.
Hi, I'm Shamli Hoth. I'll go first, I guess. I have served as outreach vice chair in the Hunter Mill District for the last 4 years. I've been working on outreach here in Fairfax County. And I'm also the first vice chair of the Democratic Asian Americans of Virginia, where I do a lot of outreach work as well. We've noticed that the other side have been really targeting particular groups here and throughout the nation. And we know that we need a concerted plan to make sure that we are able to keep up with them. We have the votes here. We need to turn them out, which a lot of the other parts of SCDC do a great job doing. What we want to do is do some targeted messaging and look at how we can assist each of the magisterial districts, as well as all the different caucuses and standing committees, to maximize our vote over the next couple of years. So I really look forward to serving you, and I ask for your vote.
Okay, Vice Chair of Technology, Tyler Begley.
Oh, I think you forget me.
Oh, sorry, Nellie. No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Nellie.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Noelle Maniego. I was the former diversity chair. I was having the role for almost 7 years. From the beginning of my selection as a chair of the diversity committee in the FCDC, My biggest concern has been minority inclusion, civic engagement, and political participation. Fairfax County is a rich and diverse county. Asian Americans and Hispanic Americans are the fastest growing population. And unfortunately, these communities suffer from lack of civic involvement and representation. My mission as a chair of the Diversity Committee was to engage with voters and potential voters in the minority community in the area, as well give visibility to our Fairfax Democratic Committee. We worked so hard to get the vote. We did everything in our power to boost our voter turnout by speaking to minority voters around the Fairfax. We host events and participate in festival, holiday celebration, faith festival, parade, demonstration, etc. And also, even we did a caravan driving to the African American neighborhood with the message that to go to get and vote. We host a soon event honoring the African American community and the Latino community. Our last event was on December, where we honor and recognize the Indian and Pakistani community. I'm very proud that the most important thing we did was register new voters. We have a print publication for the Las Americas, and also this cannot be done with such success without the help with our committee member. I would like to thank you, the members and volunteers who play a very important role in all our events. As a co-chair of the Diversity Outreach Committee, I plan to continue doing the same work, invest the same interest and energy that I have dedicated since I became the chair of the Diversity Committee. Thank you for your continued support and confidence.
Thank you so much, Nellie. Now, Vice Chair of Technology, Tyler Beckley.
Hey everybody, Tyler Beckley. I've been with FCDC for about 2 years now. I've worked on several campaigns as well, and piggybacking off of what was said earlier about really this year really riding on the backs of county committees and how true that is. And so really trying to make sure that any technology that can really benefit us at FCDC level and definitely reaching out and helping out at the magisterial district level when it comes to outreach or any organizational tools when it comes to technology will really help us sort of not have to think that we don't have the resources to make everything happen that would normally happen if it was a presidential year or a gubernatorial year. So I'm excited about working with the chairs at the magisterial districts and working with the vice chairs on the slate as well to make that happen for everybody. Thank you.
And last but not least, Vice Chair Voter Registration, Camden Layton.
Hey everyone, my name is Camden Layton. So nice to see you all. I'm running to be the vice chair for voter registration. A little bit about myself. I'm a Mason grad. I've been doing voter reg on Mason's campus since 2017. And this past fall, I was a campus organizer on Mason, where we led a lot of the voter reg efforts. And I'm excited to bring that to FCDC to make sure in order we have voters to mobilize, we need to register them and reaching out to different communities. So excited to meet you all and get to work.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now that we've gone through the loop of things, now I think it's appropriate to, since the question really is still on the floor, and since we've moved and seconded for acclamation, I think we're ready for the poll question. Okay, we've got about 60 seconds in so far. So there's a last call for votes here if you haven't voted yet. Okay, the poll will now be closed. And the slate just barely eked by, just like me. So thank you. Thank you everyone for your support. Thanks to everyone. I know they did better than me. That's I look forward to working with all of them over our next biennium. The next order of business is consideration of amendments to the bylaws. This is always fun, but there were kind of two sets of bylaws changes that were sent out to you as members of FCDC. They're also accessible on the FCDC website. If you click on the reorganization meeting, you can see both of those proposals. The first one is a set of 6 different proposals that were approved by the steering, or I guess recommended by the steering committee. So these are the first set that will be up for discussion. I just very briefly before well, I guess Aaron has his hand raised. Go ahead, Aaron. There we go.
It said I wasn't allowed to, but I guess I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I would like to move to divide the question.
Okay, would you like to be more specific?
Yes, I want to divide section 5 from the rest of the motion.
Okay. George Becerra has his hand raised. I do need okay. I do need a second for division, and there are 2 number 5s.
So second, yeah.
There are 2 number 5s. I think.
Oh, excuse me. The second number 5 is what I meant.
I don't know how I didn't notice that, but thank you.
I don't know how I didn't notice that.
We had a whole group of people look at this, and no one noticed that there were 2 number 5s. Okay, so the second number 5. Okay, so separate consideration of number 5. I thought I had a number 6 in there already, Jack, but yeah, maybe we do need a share for proofreading. Jack, can you change the question that I have in there from 5 to 6?
And then amend my motion to separate
the second. Yeah, I guess second number
6
5,
or the 6th out of 7 items.
Okay, yeah, I understood that you would like to separate renaming voter registration and education to voter registration from the rest of the consideration.
Thank you.
There is no discussion on this, so I'm just waiting for a poll to be available. Oh, okay, but okay, is that clear? Hopefully that's clear. Just to restate the question, we are dividing the question in dividing question 6, which is actually it's the second thing numbered 5 on this on this poll, just to restate that. So I see there are hands raised. There is no discussion. So are they? I can see you, Frank. Do you need to say something before we vote, or are we good to vote? No? Okay. I guess let's go ahead and launch the poll then. So just to clarify, this just means that we would vote separately on this individual item. This is not voting yes or no on anything. It just means that we will separately consider renaming voter registration and education to voter registration. I know it's confusing. It's the second number 5, but that's. I wish I could fix that, but it's a PDF right now. So. Okay, last call for votes on dividing the question. Okay, the motion carries, and renaming voter registration and education to voter registration will be considered separately from the other questions. Mr. Anderson.
Hi, okay, good. My mic is working. Quick question. The recommendations from the steering committee, can you give us a sense of whether that was unanimous or whether there was disagreement? I don't need the exact numbers, just a general idea. Thanks.
I think they were very widely accepted. I don't know if it was unanimous, but it was very close to unanimous. If that answers your question. Okay. Liz Walker seems to be next.
Thank you, Brian. I don't know if this applies in this area, so I'm going to just raise it. But when we were talking about moving from one magisterial district to another as a voting member, and I believe there's something in the bylaws that states that if the new district doesn't have openings in a voting member status, that the person transferring over would become a non-voting member. And I'm wondering if, because when we join FCDC, we're really joining the county committee with an affiliation with a district committee. I'm wondering if we shouldn't say that if you move to a magisterial district as a voting member and they don't have any open slots, that you become an inactive voting member until such time as a voting slot becomes open. That way they don't lose that voting status. It just is pending or sort of like waiting for an opening rather than become a non-voting member. I don't know if that is this appropriate in this area. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, technically, so now that the question has been divided, so right now we're considering, I guess, everything except for question 5, or questions. Considering everything with the voter registration and education piece, right? So we're considering the original motion. So I think that is germane discussion. I think the problem is we can't have more voting members than we are allowed to have by the cap. So that is just a kind of a quirk of the operations. So it's something, but just to clarify for everyone on the call, our bylaws have procedurally have this quirk that we can amend the bylaws at this reorganization meeting in a single vote instead of having multiple votes. But the proposals cannot be amended. So if there is something that we do not want to do, or if we need to change it, we can send it back somewhere. We can send it back to steering to fix it or something if there's a problem. But we can't, we cannot actually change the words of these proposals today. We either have to accept them or send them somewhere else. Mike Burke Kirby. You're still muted. I can't.
I think I'm unmuted now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like a separate consideration. I don't know how you number these, of the one on resolution guidance.
Oh, so on the last item. So you would like
Yes.
to move to divide the question.
To have that considered separately. Yes, sir.
Okay. Where can Kimberly Adams just in chat said, where can we see the language of these changes in the bylaws? This is on the FCDC website. There's in addition to kind of the exact text of each of the changes with a summary and a rationale and the actual text of the proposed change, you can also see the full bylaws with the proposed with red lines included. So, and looks like the links in the chat and everything as well. So, okay. So, is there a second to Mike Burke Kirby's motion to separate question 7? And I see Sue Rosenberg next. She might have something else, but maybe she will second this. No? It's kind of hard to. Can someone somehow say, if they want to signal second it, can they somehow separately signal me that they want to second it? Okay, Raphael is. I guess I'll allow you to speak to second it, Raphael. Okay, and Diane as well. Okay, we have a second then. So there's no discussion on this either. So we'll have we need a question. We're working on that, Jackbird. Okay, but I guess I'll try to do it. Let's see. Okay, the poll is now launched. And just to refresh your memory, this is whether or not we will vote separately on the last item, although I have a typo in there, the resolution guidance to bylaws. We're not voting yes or no, we're just saying whether or not we will vote separately on the last question. Okay, last call for votes. All right, and the motion to divide the question to consider the last item separately passes, and now we are back to the original question of the first 5 items that are listed here on the proposals of bylaws changes, and I will recognize Sue Rosenberg.
Yeah, I have. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have just a question because I don't understand how the inactive voting membership works. Because it seems to me if you're an inactive voting member, as soon as you come back to a meeting, you become an active voting member, if I'm reading it correctly. So does it just reduce the number of attendees that we need for a quorum, or how does it work?
Yeah, so the point is, instead of moving someone from voting member to associate member and then having to vote them back in through the process that we have to vote them back into voting members, that someone can be a voting member, and if they don't come to a meeting for a while, they become an inactive voting member and they won't affect the quorum at that point. The quorum would be only calculated by active voting members.
So then what it means is that you cannot take somebody who is a non-voting member and then promote them to a voting member if the cap is reached. Is that correct?
That's correct. And just if I haven't addressed Liz Walker's concern earlier, one other change that is in here that used to be a common practice or something that we would do is that it allows for the committee to increase the caps during the biennium. So if a committee does approach, if a district committee does approach the cap, we don't have any district committees near that right now. But if that does become a situation or whatever, we can increase the caps. But that's all I have to say. Alex Rodriguez, go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself first.
All righty. I know there's discomfort in Zoom types of meetings, especially when you have 315 people participating. And Brian, you're doing a wonderful job. But I raised my hand to call the question, the original question, before this gets out of hand. We've now taken 2 items off out of 7 items. And, you know, if we continue to be all the items, and I don't think we'll be able to handle that. So I'm going to use a parliamentary procedure of calling the original question. Now you can vote that down, and which indicates you're not ready, or you can vote it up.
I do need a second, and there's only one other person who has their hand raised.
No, I don't think.
Yes, yeah, you do need a right. But and now there's a whole bunch of more hands raised or whatever. Literally,
my motion is to call the question.
Can we let the one person speak or not? Or am I being corrected about whether or not we need a second?
No, I'm waiting for somebody to move us along.
Right. Okay.
What person was not speaking?
Okay. We have seconds. But just to be clear, the seconds are going to stop the one person who was waiting to vote from speaking. Last time that happened, and
yeah,
people were upset about it. But
I'm sorry, but that's what calling the question does.
I understand. So let me make sure. See if we have a poll for this. We don't. Let me. Okay. Right, I will launch the poll for calling the previous question. Just to clarify, this ends to vote discussion on the prospective bylaws changes 1 through first 5. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't know. Stephen said he couldn't hear me. Okay. Okay, last call. I'm repeating the previous question. Calling the previous question is ending discussion on approval of the bylaws changes 1 through first 5. The first 5 of the proposed bylaws changes. And I know this is very confusing, but really we're just ending discussion. Vote yes, yay for ending discussion. Vote nay for continuing discussion. Okay, I will end the poll, and discussion has ended.
Good.
And now we can vote on the first 5. Oh, it's already in here. Okay. So now we will immediately go into voting on bylaws amendments, first 5. So to clarify, this is to vote to approve the bylaws amendments 1 through the first 5. That is to add a vice chair for membership, combine diversity and outreach, create inactive voting members, recategorize youth affairs as a caucus, and create a Latino caucus. Okay, last call for votes. And the first 5 bylaws amendments pass. 272 to 14. And let the minutes reflect that. Okay. Next is, for consideration is bylaws amendment 5B or 6 or whatever we want to call it. Just going in order of the ones that we have here. To show that here, it renames the bylaw or the voter registration and education standing committee to, oh, I guess I have to stop sharing, hold on. The voter registration and education standing committee to just a voter registration standing committee, and the vice chair for voter registration and education to the vice chair for voter registration. And you can see the exact text of the proposed change and the rationale that was provided. And since Mr. Yohai was the person who divided the question, I think I will allow him to speak first.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the moment to speak, and I beg your patience while I have been dealing with some messages that I'm getting over here. But I did want to talk about the growth and change that we've seen in this committee in the last 8 or more years, what the implications are for the world we live in today for voter registration and education, and what I think is a mistake that we'd be making by going through with this change. And I want to clarify, because I know that Frank asked about whether steering was unanimous in its recommendations earlier. I think you were referring to the first grouping of recommendations, but I know for a fact that there were at least a couple people who dissented to this one, and not without reason. And my reasons for wanting to bring this up today are rapidly changing even as we speak, because I'm looking at bills. I'm joining you from my office in Richmond in the General Assembly building right now, and I'm looking at bills that Republican members of the House of Delegates are putting forward that are curtailing access to early voting by days, that are requiring reasons to vote early, that are requiring voter IDs. And how this relates to the mission of the Voter Registration and Education Committee for the last 8 or more years is, it used to be all about voter registration of traditionally overlooked groups, as well as arming them with the information that they need to be effective self-advocates for themselves and their peers. Information about what kind of photo IDs are acceptable, that they will need to provide certain information in order to vote in a certain way. And it has increasingly had to do with voter education and providing information to voters as our laws changed. obviously people need to be informed when our laws change, but as well, C3, C4 organizations like New Virginia Majority and the DMV, as a matter of fact, have taken a lot of voter registrations minutia off our hands as a committee. They are making it easier for people to register to vote as they are getting their driver's licenses renewed. The League of Women Voters is involved in registering and pre-registering high schoolers to vote when they're old enough. And New Virginia Majority and groups like that are focusing on former offenders, people who had their rights restored, people who are traditionally overlooked, like historical Black communities, in order to have a New Virginia majority and realize our goals for decades of bringing forward that latent Democratic majority that we know has existed in this southern state with a history of Jim Crow and voter suppression. And we are working against that, and we've been successful. And members of this committee have been invested in that mission. And I fear that it's being lost and that we are committing a grievous mistake if we say that this is no longer a mission of a specific standing committee of FCDC at a time when Republicans are absolutely making it their mission to curtail voting rights and suppress the vote of youth, of minorities, of people who traditionally haven't had as easy and access to polls and been so privileged to have the opportunity, which is why I'm asking members of FCDC tonight to please oppose this motion, and perhaps we can revise it at a future meeting by changing around the order of words to mitigate what I understand has been some confusion, or perhaps replacing the word education with information and keeping the mission of the committee centered on information for voters, which is the crux of what I'm getting at tonight. I really appreciate everybody listening to what I have to say. I hope to hear what others have to say about this as well, and I'll certainly chime in again, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Alex Rodriguez is next. Go ahead. You're still muted, Alex. There you go.
Okay, I pressed it 3 times. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. A rose by any other name is still a rose. I'll use fewer words than the advocate for the change. People who've worked on voter registration share his sympathies, are just as concerned, have been vigorous for the many years, now almost 20 years that I've served on Fairfax County Democratic Committee. I would trust that the work that has to be done to confront those in the State House that want to upend the progress that people like Jennifer Bosco and our representatives have made are not going to succeed given our Senate numbers. I think just changing a name, this is too much to discuss. Let's just move forward with all these items. And I oppose changing it. A committee worked on this. They thought it out. Let's move forward to the vote. Don't force me to call the question again.
Christopher Schaefer. Christopher, are you there? I can't hear you. I'll go to Jennifer Boysko then. Senator Boysko.
Thanks so much. I love the conversation. First, I want to just say that I serve on the Privileges and Elections Committee, and we are going to be a brick wall this year, but you never know what's going to happen in a future election. And voter registration and education are essential. That is one of the core values and purposes of the committee. I don't quite understand why you want to change the name. I'm not going to vote for the amendment and appreciate the energy with all of this. Just wanted to chime in since I'm kind of in the middle of a lot of that.
Christopher, are you there again? Still can't hear you. Matt Savage.
Hi, Brian. I'm a bit confused. I'm looking at this, what you have pulled on the screen, and then I'm also looking at another window, the proposed changes to the duties of FCDC officers and committees. And when I see on the other document that we're going to get to, I think next, it with the duties of the committees, it doesn't seem like the voter registration committees, their duties as defined in this next document seem to change from education. Maybe I don't know what it was in previous years, but I just don't see, I don't see the issue with the link with that, those two words and education. I don't know if Brian, if you can speak to whether or not they change in the language changes in the proposed duties of officers and committees.
Yeah, so the proposed changes of words and duties of officers and committees do remove registration and education from that proposal as well. The duties of this committee are not really changing. I think the part of the intent is that that there is responsibility among all of our committees to educate voters. I mean, that happens through precinct operations, that happens through voter registration drives and things like that. So there's kind of multiple kind of vehicles for that. I think I still have Christopher Schaefer. Is your headset working yet? Okay. And I think Liz Walker, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I wanted to say that Aaron did address a lot of aspects that I wanted to say. I was quite alarmed when I read the changes on the amendments on the naming of VRE. As a VRE active person, about 90% of what I do when I do VRE, it is educating voters rather than signing them up. As an election officer, I also know that the elections office of Fairfax County goes into the high schools and actually signs up students in the high schools as well. So there's a lot of people doing registration, but the biggest gap in information is the education piece. So I strongly feel that we need to keep the education part of VRE, because there's so much misinformation out there that most of the time what we're doing is educating on the process, on when the elections are coming up. This happens all across the board. I recognize that all of us as members and active Democrats, we all need to communicate and educate our peers, our neighbors, our family members, but I think the focus to have a committee like VRE not be focused on education is a real problem to me. Thank you.
All right, it sounds like Christopher has his mic fixed, or it was.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you when you were testing.
Sorry about that. So it sounds like I'm outnumbered here, but I'm actually thinking that we should change it away from education. It's because two things. One is that we've got the voter law committee that is supposed to be tracking these changes and bringing them to our attention. And, you know, that's their responsibility to do that, not some other committee. And also having this separate group of people that it's their job to educate, when everybody else, you know, we're out there at the farmers markets, we're out there at the festivals, we're out there, you know, at the concerts, and, you know, we're all out there talking. And if we think, oh, but that's not our job to educate, that's these other people's. And I've run into situations in which people are like, oh, well, I can't answer that because I'm not on the voter registration committee and I don't know. I mean, this person genuinely did not know. And so that shows a failing. So if the voter education committee wants to take on training everybody, then let them keep the education thing. But if they think they're the only people that can educate, that should not be the case.
Okay, Stephen, we've got 4 hands left right now. Stephen Spitz.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm talking after Christopher, because let me disabuse everybody of what he just said. The Election Law and Voter Protection Committee, which I've been on since its creation, and I've been co-chair for many of those years, does not attempt to educate voters, but actually the main focus is to do poll observation, attend the electoral board meetings and things like that. We don't issue or train voters. We protect voters and the right to vote. I have done over the years lots of voter registration, of course, particularly in the pre-pandemic times, with tables. And somebody spoke about one of the main things you do at a voter registration table, when we've done that over the years, is educate voters as to early vote. For example, at the Giant near Goodwin House, talking to people at Goodwin House, or you can early vote, on the following dates at the Mason District Government Center, a very useful thing. The word education is not intended, as I have ever understood it, to be the exclusive province of that committee. But a major part of voter registration and the Voter Registration and Education Committee is to educate voters about, while you're asking them if they're registered to vote, of course, register them to vote, but also educate them about when the election is, the various means of voting, etc. And then that's an important message. I guess this thing, it's got strangely sort of like, oh, we do education too. Of course, everybody does education, but that doesn't denigrate the notion that the Voter Registration Committee doesn't have, and always has had as a primary function, educating voters. So I would vote against this resolution and urge others to do that.
Okay. I will urge brevity as quickly as we can get through this with more hands still up. Jim Moran.
I'll pass. My question was kind of answered along the way.
Okay. Ken Wheeler.
The voter reg and education people are the ones who have produced most of the material that I have handed out since 2017, when I've done, voter identification canvases. And so having a smaller group of people that are focused on the details as they change year to year to help give materials to precinct ops and blue wave canvassing and voter ID canvassing. I think it's important that they keep that mission, because it's a centralized place. If we say everybody's responsible for education, that's great, but somebody needs to be responsible for actually producing the information and material that everybody else is using. And I thought that's what VREC did.
Okay. Keep raising hands. But if we keep raising hands, we'll keep going. Deborah Joyce is next. You'll have to click on mute.
Yep. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Why in the world don't we just call it voter registration and information instead of education? Just voter registration and information.
We can't approve this change, or we can't change it on the fly right now. But if we were so inclined, we could refer this back to steering to ask for that to happen. Next is Brandon Thurner. And You have to unmute. No, okay. Roy Baldwin.
Hi, Brian. I just noticed that in the draft proposed bylaws changes on page 12, under Article 7, Section 1, it appears that we already have a standing committee titled Education. If that's the case,
that's correct.
Okay, if that's the case, then I think that's the committee that should be doing the educating.
Well, the
also,
education, just to clarify, in duties and responsibilities, the educate, and this is maybe part of the confusion, but education committee is responsible for like issues of education. In typically probably concerned about FCPS issues, but just in general as well. So it's more of a kind of issue standing committee about education versus voter registration and education, which is about voter registration and information or whatever. I don't know, but yes.
All right. I'd also like to observe that Aaron Yohei has had his hand raised for a while. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Yeah, Aaron has already spoken on the question, and I must allow everyone else who would like to speak on the question to speak first before I go back to anyone else.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Dan Press.
Call the question. Move the previous question. Not debatable. It does need a second.
Yeah, it does need a second.
There's
I guess I'm seeing seconds. Yeah, okay. Okay, there are seconds. All right, let me launch the poll for calling the question. Or calling the previous question. And here we go. So just to clarify, this ends discussion. Vote yes to end discussion on the bylaws amendment proposal to rename voter registration and education. Vote nay so that we can continue discussion. I'm gonna say there's last call for vote, since we already have a supermajority of people here have voted in the affirmative. So I'm going to end the poll. More than 200 people have already voted to call the previous question. And so therefore we will now vote on this proposal. So to clarify, this is you will now get a poll to whether or not we will approve the proposed bylaws amendment to rename voter registration and education to voter registration. Okay, last call for votes. For bylaws amendment to pass, it must get a 2/3 vote in favor. We did not reach 28%, or we got 28% for this amendment. So the bylaws amendment to rename voter registration and education has failed. And now the question on the floor is number 6, which is the last item under consideration of the original set of bylaws proposals, and that adds resolution guidance to the bylaws. Review and follow the resolution guidance document when proposing. Am I still here? I guess I'm still here. Can you see my screen still too? Someone? Okay. It adds that the members should review and follow the resolution guidance document when proposing resolutions to the county committee. And I guess I'll go to Mr. Burke Kirby, who made the motion to divide,
Yes.
to speak first.
Yeah, there are two parts to this amendment, and I have problems with both of them. The first refers to something that FCDC did in August of this year, and I don't think it's legal to put something in our bylaws that refers to an outside document. I mean, the beginning of the document refers to the state party plan, which is the basis for our bylaws, but there's nowhere else in here that we have anything that references an outside document. If you want to have the language from that resolution that passed in August, you should actually put that language into the bylaws and not reference it someplace else. The second part is that you've got the steering committee suggesting changes to people's resolutions. Now, the beginning of this amendment on resolution says members of the committee have the right to introduce resolutions shall not be abridged. And then you have language that says that the steering committee can modify those resolutions. It's always been the practice that the steering committee can suggest changes or make suggestions or oppose or refer to a committee, but the right of a member to actually make a motion should go whatever way they want to. And if the steering committee wants to suggest changes, that should be up to the member that made the motion to begin with. I have some suggestions that I will make later. There's nothing else we can do with these bylaws tonight except either pass them or not pass them to get rid of some of the hiccups that we've had with resolutions. But I don't think that the language that's in here really serves us well, and especially where it says where the steering committee can make some modifications to somebody's proposal.
Okay, thank you. Just to clarify, this bylaws change came from the resolutions task force, and I'm going to recognize Sandra Clausen, who was the chair of that, next to talk about that. But I think just to clarify, the point was there is another document that is referred to in the bylaws, and that is the duties and responsibilities document that we will consider later. But Sandra, go ahead. And you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Yes, I'm a little confused. I don't see anywhere where it says the steering committee can make revisions. I thought it said they could scrutinize and refine in the rationale, but it doesn't in the bylaws change say the steering committee can make any changes that I see.
It says including submitting proposed resolutions to the steering committee for prior review and possible endorsement.
Yes, that's we have done that.
So
historically.
just to clarify, this is not a discussion. So Sandra, go ahead. We've got that clarification for Mike's question. So go ahead, Sandra.
Okay, that's great. Possible endorsement. The steering committee has always, when people presented resolutions to them, made motions to endorse or not to endorse. It doesn't mean pass it. The steering committee has always offered suggestions, as Mike pointed out, which sometimes the author finds helpful and adds, and sometimes does not. So the point here is the steering, when people have historically by precedent presented their resolutions to the steering committee for review and possible endorsement, they have offered suggestions, can or may not be accepted, and if the author wants the steering committee to endorse it to the membership, the steering committee historically does that, or so they vote to endorse. That has nothing to do with the final vote. We've been following this precedent for the last 20 years.
Is there any other discussion on this bylaws amendment? Seeing no additional discussion, we can have the question. So let's see if I can launch it. Here we go. Okay, I'm launching a poll now to whether or not we will approve the proposed bylaws amendment to add resolutions guidance for members to follow when proposing resolutions. Okay. Most people have voted. Last call for votes. All right, and the poll. Okay. The motion to approve the proposed bylaws amendment to add resolution guidance to the bylaws has passed 75% in favor. So that carries. The last bylaws proposal, which is just a matter of me not having the idea before our steering committee. My computer's having issues. Okay, let's see if I'm back. All right. Try this again. Just because I didn't have the idea before steering, this was not proposed to steering. So this is just my proposal, and we can do what we want with it. But the proposal is to remove the requirement that the district chair approve an inability of to pay form for FCDC membership. Right now, a district our bylaws say that a district chair has to approve that form. So, I don't think that that's fair to the district chairs, and I don't think it's fair to the people who have to approve them either. So, I have hands raised now for discussion. Rachel Rice.
I would certainly speak in favor of this. I think that from doing membership for the past 4 years for Hunter Mill, I don't think we've ever not approved one, and it's really just a matter of form. So I would, if it's agreeable to everyone, move that we accept the proposed change. There is a second in the chat, but I know that Nadja had her hand raised.
Nadja's next, so
yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to explain why we have that rule, because in the past we had, when people didn't need their district chairs things, we had many people who didn't pay dues who clearly could. And they just basically, I don't know why that happened in the past. I don't know if it would happen now if we changed it, but a lot of people abused that situation. And that's why we asked the district chairs to approve it. It's a way of just making people honest.
Okay, Andrew Scalise is next.
Thank you, Brian. It's really more of a question in terms of process, because this lays out the rationale, which I think makes perfect sense. But the process would still be what we have today, a paper form that would be submitted to a chair or submitted directly into the county committee. In terms of process, how do you see that, just so we can kind of envision what that would look like?
I mean, as the bylaws read right now, it says a form as defined by the county committee has to be signed by the person and obviously submitted to FCDC. So I would think to either the FCDC office or to the district chair. I don't know that there's a, I don't know that that has to be in the bylaws, the actual process, but the point was that you didn't have to sign off on it as a district chair for it to be a completed waiver form.
Thanks. And then I'll say I would support that. Just for those who don't know, I'm involved in this process pretty heavily, and having to go back to district chair saying, crap, you got to sign this paper and sign that one is a bit complex, particularly in a remote environment. So this would be a welcome change. I just want to make sure that I think the paper forms have worked. So if we can keep that in terms of process, it would be beneficial.
Oops, next is Jim Moran. Oh, I just muted you. Sorry, Jim. Clicking all the buttons.
I think they also should consider a privacy issue, and also who is going to make that decision. If they have one person makes the decision, and they have prejudice, wouldn't this better be done by a committee or by more than one person? And the form should be available at any rate online, so that you don't have to go searching around and hunting up the form and asking 20 different people for the form. The more people get involved, the more of it hurts the people asking for that. And if what Nadja said, there's concern that people are abusing it, then it seems that if it's that important to screen these people out, then it should be done by committee or some more than one person. So it should be Brian, the chair.
Just to clarify, Jim, we're not talking about any approval. It's just someone signs the form. So that remainder of the discussion here, we're not changing this. So we're either voting for this or not. So we should speak to the merits of this, and this is not recommending that we have a committee to decide whether or not we should accept the form. It's just removing the acceptance period.
Well, I don't understand how you present this. You admitted this is your own. You wrote this up yourself, and then you expect everybody here to vote on it, yay or nay, without any discussion to change parts of it. It's either take it all or don't take it all.
The bylaws prohibit us from making an amendment to this at this meeting. So if we would like to change this, we can refer it back somewhere else, but we can't at this meeting make a change to this proposal.
All right.
Bob Berry?
I think we should vote no, okay? Because I am worried that this is a system that can be gamed. If someone wants to flood FCDC with members to achieve some specific goal, one of the things that restricts that is that you have to spend a little bit of money to do it, or you have to persuade a district chair. And I don't care too much whether it's a district chair or somebody else, that you have a legitimate need to be a member without paying anything. So my suggestion is either return it to steering for further consideration or to vote no. Thank you.
I'm on Eldarwish.
Thank you. There was one day where 36 new members joined Mason District Committee, and most of them submitted a request to waive the members. 3-4 weeks later, they never showed up. And if the district chair doesn't recognize these people, how can anyone in FCDC recognize them? I think the district chair has the right to collect these forms and present them to FCDC. The first time I joined, I submitted a request to Rachel, and it was waived. Then I got motivated to join FCDC and get involved, and ever since. So it is an incentive for somebody to join, and it is an incentive for the district chair to recognize where that member lives, what precinct they belong to, who to know. All this kind of discussion comes through the process of
this kind of submission. And it also provides the positive intent to actually be an active member of Fairfax Democrats. Thanks for letting me talk.
And next is Daniel Press.
Thanks, Brian. You know, I think we have other ways to keep out members that we want to keep out. We actually have 2 votes on everybody that wants to join. There's a vote in the Magisterial District Committee, technically an advisory vote, and then there's the final vote of the FCDC full committee before anybody becomes a member. We also have a membership caps, and while we have the ability to increase the caps, right now the caps exist. And so the situation that we had a few years ago at the time of the school board endorsement process, and we've also changed the school board endorsement process from what I understand. So because I think we're going to be doing that presumably as a firehouse primary, where you don't need to be a member of FCDC to vote. You know, there's other ways to solve this without, you know, having district chairs or whoever it's going to be in FCDC judge people's finances. And I think that's really what we're doing here. We're saying, you know, let's not judge, you know, whether somebody can actually afford that money. So I think this is a good change. I support it. And, you know, I would, again, encourage people to look at those membership lists, you know, particularly when we get into an endorsement process or whatever, and make sure that we're not being abused by people joining, whether they pay or not.
Okay, thanks. Richard Chu is next. And you'll have to unmute Richard.
Thanks, Brian. I will just echo what Dan just said.
Okay. Fair enough. Bob Slezis.
Yeah, hi everyone. I very much endorse what Dan Press has said. There is some level of embarrassment associated with a member, a potential member, who is willing to devote their time, energy, and their sweat equity. And the more people involved in the process opens it up to what I believe are privacy issues. So that I fully support this amendment.
Okay. That was the last hand raised. If there's no more discussion, then we can have the question. Okay, seeing no more discussion, I will launch the poll. Assuming we have one. Do we have a poll? Of course. Okay. All right. So to repeat the question, this is to approve the voting yes approves this bylaws amendment to remove the district chair approval of FCDC membership fee waivers. Okay, last call for votes. Okay, the vote on this proposal was 56% in favor, 44% against. The motion requires a 2/3, 67% approval, so the motion does not carry, and this bylaws amendment is not approved. Okay. Next up is approval of new members, which I also understand is going to be fun. So can't wait for that. There are 2 pages of members before I get into kind of recognizing some of the folks who have their hand raised. There are 2 pages of members here. There are voting members, which are in this first column or first 2 columns here of people who filed after 5 p.m. on December 1st, or who didn't complete their application before 5 p.m. on December 1st, but were subsequently approved by their district committees at their reorganization meetings. And then there were 174 associate members from all of the districts. And there are lots of names here, and they're probably pretty tiny on your screen, and I apologize for that. If you could go to the FCDC website, if you haven't seen the full list yourself, you can see it there as well, and the link for the list of new members. And I'm going to switch to the next screen, and then I'm going to recognize Mr. Press, who has his hand raised first.
So couple things. One, because I raised it back before we moved on to this. Brian, I believe that at reorg, it does not take a 2/3 majority. It takes a simple majority, because everything is on the table, unless it was in the rules, the meeting rules.
So the section, there's 2 sections about. One, the first section says that you need to have notice for any bylaws change, so you can't just bring it up at the meeting on the fly. Section 2 is the section which applies for reorganization, and that says that bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 vote of voting members present and voting at a reorganization meeting of the county committee. So, in my understanding, in my judgment as chair, that says that we need a 2/3 vote. You can have a majority vote at 2 subsequent consecutive regular meetings to amend the bylaws, but for reorganization, you need in a single vote, you need a 2/3 vote.
All right, well, I'm not sure that's valid, but we'll take that up another time. All right, and then the other question is, could you switch that back to the 100 mil list, please?
Sure.
Of associate members.
Maybe.
I see Walter Alcorn's name listed as an associate member. And I think he's an ex officio automatic member.
He's an ex officio member if he fills out a voting member application and pays dues, according to the bylaws. So I believe his application is for associate member.
I think he's automatic anyway, but okay.
All right, Mr. Sherratt.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Just glad this is working. I am going to try and do this as quick as possible. I would like to propose that the following 3 names be sent back to Braddock District for reconsideration. Those 3 names are Tracy Compton, Sandra Davis, and Alexander Levine. Those 3 names are people who are members of Open FCPS group, which everyone should hopefully by this point be well aware of who they are. And in specifically, Sandra Davis cut video ads for Youngkin in the recent election.
Jeff, can you clarify the second name again? Sorry,
Sorry, Sandra Davis. She's a few down
Okay.
from Tracy there.
Okay.
Sorry if that was hard.
So I just wanted to highlight for consideration.
You highlighted Julie Levine. I think the one I was talking about was Alexander Levine. I don't know. Yeah, they need to be reconsidered. Alexander.
Aaron is waving his hand crazily, but Melanie is also ahead of him. But so
sure.
I don't know.
I don't want to.
You all talk all at once, but
yeah, I don't want to cut down conversation. I just wanted to get this started because I was going through the list and I noticed these names that I know from my work. So that's it for me for now. I'll let some others chime in.
Well, I don't want Aaron to have a coronary. So if Aaron wants to be recognized, please go ahead and then I'll follow you. Thank you.
I didn't want to make unnecessary work. I can add a name to that list, Julie Levine. I hope, Jeffrey, you'll accept it as a friendly amendment to your motion.
It hasn't been seconded yet, so
yeah, that's
I
fine.
guess we can.
Thanks for help, Aaron.
Okay. So just to be clear, I guess there's a motion now to remove these 4 names for consideration for the reasons spoken for. I know there are other hands raised, but I'll go to Melanie first. So go ahead, Ms. Marin. And I think maybe we muted you again.
There we go. No, we're good. Thank you. Okay. Am I there? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you to those who are proposing these motions. I just wanted to voice that it would help if the committee could be clear, just to remind folks, front and center, what are the criteria by which someone could be, their membership application could be rejected. I just don't know offhand if that's in the bylaws, but if so, could that be front and center? And if it is, could it be refreshed just to be sure that it's part of the process that everybody knows, for what reasons, basically the criteria. And then secondly, doing a social media check, this where we can see evidence of, people's true colors and allegiances. And so building in time during this membership process, which I know it's all volunteer, you guys are dedicating your time, but how can we build in time so that we can review lists? So for the future. So those are the reasons, and I support this, the motions up. Thanks.
Thank you. I know there are other, I know Jeff and Aaron have their hands raised already. I don't know if you have to say anything else at this point. I haven't lowered them, so I guess I'll lower you all, and you can raise them again if you need. So, Rachel Rifkin, go ahead, and you'll have to unmute yourself.
Can I see the Mason list?
Sure. I will state that that some people were caught by their districts ahead of where we are right now. So, So not everyone who applied for associate membership was admitted based off of similar grounds. Go ahead, Rachel.
Ryan Borkenhagen, I have no idea who that is. It was not anybody that we voted on, or did I get an application from?
So Ryan is in a weird situation because he was put up in front of the Providence District Committee. But Ryan is actually a member, or he's now in Mason District. He's been drawn in the Mason District. So, so he was on the Providence list. Providence voted him in, but he's actually in Mason. So I didn't really know what to do with that other than just kind of put him in here.
Okay.
But Ryan, I personally am a big fan of Ryan. So I don't know, whatever that means, if that's endorsement for us to just to allow
okay,
that.
well, I'll talk to you offline so I can get some information about him so I can add him to my list.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah Albamonte.
Hi, Brian. I just wanted to ask that you just kind of review for everybody how these people are vetted. It sounds like they do go to their district committee for review. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. And, so we know that these people are vetted and at what level.
So associate members and any voting member that is approved outside of the reorganization process, so like this, has to be approved both by their district committee and then by the full committee. I think the kind of level of vetting that happens kind of varies district between district, and maybe the vice chair, vice chair membership will maybe have something to do with this, making sure that we have a process to take care of this. But for the moment, it kind of varies from district to district on how carefully people are vetted. So, I don't have a blanket answer to say that someone looked up everyone beforehand, but we did. Clearly some people were looked up and we found some issues now with some folks. So anyway, but fortunately, that's my answer to the question at this moment. Liz Walker.
Yes, Jeff, could you go back to the other page? Jeff talked about why Sandra Davis, who I think it was the one who for the ad for Youngkin, but there wasn't a real explanation about these other people, except for they were part of a activist group on the Fairfax County schools. I'm not sure that should automatically rule somebody out for joining if they're strong or if they're Democrats. But can somebody speak to why Tracy, Alexander, and Julie should not be included outside of being part of that group? I mean, on social media, are they?
I think maybe Aaron could answer that question, or Jeffrey. Aaron.
Thank you. I'm being apprised as we speak of this very uncomfortable situation, and we need to put it to bed. We can't have members of Fairfax Democrats who are in violation of our mission, which is to elect and promote democratic values. It doesn't work. So unless someone has more names to add, I move the question.
Just one extra thing. If I can just quickly slip in there. These people are like not just members of this group, but they've been leadership, or at least well-known members of it, pushing some of the things that have been the most problematic parts of the movement. This isn't just about them.
Jeff, I don't know. Where the question's called. I guess I'm trying to figure out if.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And I guess if I'm still in order, yes, I have been shown evidence of this.
Okay. Looks like we have a second to call the question. I know there are hands raised, but although, okay. So again, we will vote on whether or not we will end discussion on whether or not we will remove these 4 names from consideration. Okay, I'm going to say last call for votes because the vast majority of you have already voted to end discussion. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So the question is called, and now we will vote to remove associate member these 4 names for consideration from associate membership in FCDC. And I want everyone to vote. So last call for votes. Okay. That motion easily carries, and those 4 names are now removed for consideration from membership. Thank you for that. It's something we're going to have to continue to kind of go through, I think, under the challenges of I guess open FCPS and similar organizations fighting against public education. So thank you for that. With those names removed, the motion on the floor is to approve these members. I don't think we really need discussion, but Dan Press is waving his hand, so I'm wildly, so go ahead.
Yeah, there was somebody just posted in the chat that Christina McCormick in Clifton is listed as a strong Republican. She's on the Springfield list. So can anyone answer whether Christina McCormick was properly vetted by the Springfield committee? And why she would show as a strong Republican in the van? If nobody can, so actually what I'll do is move to remove Christina McCormick. And then if anybody has a good reason she's there, then I'd consider withdrawing that motion.
It looks like Zach is next, so go ahead. And you have to, there you go.
Okay, y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I am on the SCDC steering committee. So we did vet some of the members during the meeting and removed some, but as to why we didn't get this particular member, I'm not sure. So I'm sure I can check right now. Let's see if I can find anything, but.
Okay. Is there a second at this point?
Looks like Matthew Lopez and Sue Rosen.
Yeah, okay, we have some seconds. Okay, so I guess that's consideration. Is there anyone who could my goodness, this is fun. Isn't this fun? Is there anyone who wants to discuss to vote on I mean, is there any discussion? There are other hands raised, and I don't know if they're germane to the discussion. I guess Deborah added her hand while we're waiting. So Deborah Joyce.
Yeah, I just, I'm on Springfield and I don't know anything about how we vet, but we need to do a better job of this because it's not good. We can't have a right-wing spy in our organization. We have to do a better job. So I that's all I got to say.
Let me amend Brian, let me amend my motion. Instead of that, I would move that it appears that all of these are associate members. I would move that all of the associate members be committed to the district committees to properly vet. My guess is some of the district committees properly vetted them, others didn't. They may not have known that this was actively happening. So I would let's send these all back to the district committees. They're associate members. They don't need to be acted on today. It's not affecting any voting rights. Let's just send them back.
I know we have a number of hands up, but I'm gonna and now there's more hands. So we can't. I mean, we already have a motion on the floor, so you're really kind of moving to replace a substitute motion.
Yes.
That we reject all associate members.
No, that we recommit. It's a motion to recommit to the district committees.
Okay. And there was a second.
There was a second from Deborah Joyce.
Okay. So that is part of the discussion in keeping track of all the hands and whatever is crazy, but I'm gonna recognize Nadja Golding next, since she's had her hand raised longest.
Yeah, okay, so it seems to me that there's a few of these people we should just reject out of hand, the ones that we were talking about at the beginning. Instead of sending them back to Braddock, we can just reject them and put them down in our coded as denied. We don't need to recommit them. And so I would rather we had amended before we got to this other thing, I wanted to say that we should amend the suggestion to recommit to propose that we deny their membership.
Well,
I
we've
don't-
already removed the four. We have already removed the four from
Yeah, but that's
consideration. So we're
before
just
that.
talking.
But we
We're talking
removed
about
them.
one additional
Yeah,
name
I
at this
know,
point,
Brian,
and
but I want to
we
know
have the
what
motion
that
on the floor.
means. Does that mean we denied them or just removed
Yes.
them because we should have denied them?
No, the motion on the floor right now is to send all of the associate members back to their district committees for additional vetting or whatever to come back for future consideration. There's no denial of I guess any of them at this point.
Even
That's
the
motion on
ones that
floor.
we already decided to that we didn't want.
Yes.
And
No,
those
they were
ones
denied.
I never got to amend that thing because I was never recognized when that was up. We really just should have denied them instead of sending it back to Braddock.
We didn't send the original ones. We didn't send back to Braddock. We removed them from consideration for approval, which maybe is denial. I don't know.
Well, so that's
semantics.
my question, is it?
But
because I'm going to put them down as denied in our record
okay, without
But-
objection. All right. Liz Walker is next. Oh, and just to clarify, it looks like Jennifer Lowe Davis, who is the former Springfield chair, says that the particular Christina McCormick, who is in Springfield, is a no data voter, not a strong Republican. So that means, I don't know what that means, but it means that the concern about that particular name as showing up as a Republican, the one who applied is a no data voter, which means they probably haven't voted in Virginia yet or have a small voting history. Ken Wheeler's next. Okay, Rachel Rice is, or do you have something, Ken? Rachel Rice is next. And just to clarify, because we have a motion on the floor, is to the motion on the floor is to recommit all associate members back to the district committees.
So we have, I just want to clarify for my own sake, we have removed 4 names from the question. We've separated them out. So we have to vote on those at some point, which that I think would be Nadia's question about whether we've sent them back or denied them.
Is the chair's ruling that we have denied membership to those four.
Do we have to vote on it though?
No, we have already voted on that.
We voted to remove them from the question to separate them, right? It's different, isn't it?
I don't think, did we vote to separate them?
I
No.
thought we did.
We removed them
So-
from consideration, I believe. Let me find the exact words of the poll. Hold on.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I swear. I'm trying to figure out where we are in the process.
They were removed from consideration. In my opinion, that is, so we will not, or
Not
in,
approve
in
their
the chair's
membership.
opinion is that is not approved.
Okay. And then my comment, I guess, is a couple of things that I've seen in the chat already, which is anyone can reapply. So there's nothing stopping them from sending an application every month. The districts just need to deny them and say no. At some point, they'll give up because they don't actually want to be members. They just want to be a pain in the butt. The other thing is that each district handles this a little bit differently. So everyone who is clearly worried about this, not only talk to your district chair and find out what the process is for your district, but offer to help. If there are people that you are concerned about, ask for the prospective member information ahead of your meetings, and then take the time and go look them up online. Not every district chair or membership chair has the time to do that or the energy. They are typically looked up in VAN or one of the databases. That information is not always correct. And a lot of the district chairs will reach out to them and ask if they are not strong Dems, or reach out and say, welcome, here's the process. So for everyone who's so concerned about it, change the process for your district. If it's not working, start there, because FCDC approves or denies whatever the districts send them. That's the process. So they apply to FCDC, FCDC hands them out to the districts, and then the districts recommend to FCDC whether they should become members or not. So that's how this works. And obviously there are things missed. There's always clerical errors. There's, you know, 2 different people with the same name. But if you're worried about this, take it to your district. It's not really an FCDC thing, except that we are now in the position to segregate out 4 names and deny them membership.
Well, just to clarify, and I will, there are a lot of hands raised, so I want to remind people that the motion on the floor right now is to reject all of the associate, well, not reject, sorry, specificity of words, to return the associate members to the district committees for consideration. And so please keep comments germane to that. If you don't have a comment about that, then we will come back to you. Richard Chu is next.
Thanks, Brian. I'm in favor of returning everything to the districts.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Rachel Rifkin is next. And you have to click unmute, sorry.
Mason knows all of these people. They're former members, and there are 2 or 3 that I have talked to personally, and I see no need to send them back for revetting in Mason District.
Okay, Paul Jameson.
Yes, in Mount Vernon for the last 2 years, I was the new member vice chair, so I was doing the vetting. But it's kind of odd the way it works here at Reorganization. People get, if you don't have to have a caucus, everybody who's put in a membership application is automatically a member. So there's that, but the new members are different. And then the associate members just showed up at the meeting for the first time and saw them, and I never had a chance to vet them. I happen to know most of them and know that they're okay, but I didn't have a chance to actually vet the names that I don't know. And so it's a different procedure here in Reorganization that would not have happened during the normal process of being able to actually vet these people. So I agree with that, sending them back, even though I know most of the people.
Okay, next is William Brown.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'd like to know whether or not the process will include an explanation for why the member or the associate member requesting to join is being sent back. I think that'll be important because that'll give the person the opportunity to either confirm or correct the information that's being reported about them.
Make sure that's what they're looking for with the rest of the people.
And also make sure that there's some kind of process to capture information for anyone else in question.
Okay. I mean, I don't think the motion speaks to that in particular, but I think I mean, it's certainly something that can be done. Jennifer Lowe, go ahead. And you'll have to unmute.
Oh, Brian, I was just talking about the Christina McCormick thing. So my hand was up a while ago. Sorry.
Okay. I think I already reported on that. Andy Purford.
Hi, I'd like to strongly oppose this motion. I mean, it's just going to create a lot of confusion and a lot of work for district chairs that really I just don't need. I have better things to do with my time than answer a bunch of emails about why we rejected longtime Democrats that we have properly vetted. This motion imposes a lot of cost on Providence District and on me personally. I think we really had better times. The other thing I'd say is all associate membership means is you can come to the meetings, which our meetings are open to the public anyways. So it's rejecting them is pointless. And second, are we going to give all these people their money back? Do we have to do that now so that we've voted against, we're not admitting them? So let's reject this.
To clarify,
we're onto the work we have to do.
The motion is not to reject these members, just to be clear.
But if you're not approving them, you're rejecting them.
No, the motion is to send back for the districts for recommendation of approval. This is not, this is, the districts may choose to.
Okay, I think it's a waste of time.
We're not having a discussion. I was just clarifying. Okay. Liz is next. Oh, hold on. Liz Walker, go ahead. Oops, I'm clicking the wrong one.
Sorry, Brian, I did not mean to have my hand raised.
Okay. Looks like Alex Rodriguez is next.
Zachary Lincoln, I think, was before me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, so from what I'm seeing, most if not all of the districts have vetted, and I think it's pointless to return every single member. So, and also if possible, I'd like to move to call the question.
Is there a second?
Second from Pranav.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of seconds. Okay. All right. I think we probably have thoroughly discussed this. But there are a couple hands left. If I stop sharing, we have. Do I need a new poll? No, we need to call the question poll. Wait, I found one. I found one that hasn't been used yet. Okay. Okay. So to clarify this vote to end the discussion on whether or not we should refer all associate members back to the districts. This is not a vote yes or no on that, but this is just a vote of whether or not discussion is ended. Okay, and with the majority of people in the meeting now responding, I'm going to end the poll. So please. And 96% of people are in favor of calling the previous question. So now we have to vote on the actual question of whether or not we were sending associate member applications back to the districts for consideration or reconsideration. This looks pretty close. So if you're in the meeting and you haven't made up your mind, I'm gonna let it run for a while. But please, if you have an opinion, please vote. Okay, last call for votes. The motion to return associate member applicants back to district committees for reconsideration fails. 121 to 111. So now, lowering all hands. Is there any more discussion on members, approval of members or, okay, Cheryl Binkley, go ahead.
Is this list going to be given to the be made available, so those of us who still have concerns about the vetting can do some vetting ourselves.
Yep, the list is on the
This is very
FCDC.
important, and I'm deeply concerned about the damage that they are determined to do to the Democrats, and we can't allow them to do that damage. So if we can see the list, those of us who will take the time and trouble to do it, will vet them.
Yeah, so right now the list is on the FCDC website. I am kind of endeavoring to make district chairs and FCDC share that list earlier with everyone so that people can take a look if we do know people who are problematic. John Wortman.
Yeah, I call the question. I move we vote on all the members and associate members.
Okay. There's the second. There's only one other hand raised, but we can have that. It is moved and seconded that we call the question or call the previous question. So okay. All right. The poll that is launched now is to end discussion on whether or not we are approving these new members. This is not a vote yes or no on whether or not the members are approved. It's just whether or not we're ending discussion. Okay, with the majority of people here responding, I'm going to end the poll. And the previous question has, the motion to call the previous question has passed. And now we can approve to, we can vote to approve. The question on the floor now is whether or not we are approving new members with the 4 redactions. And I'm looking for that. Oh, it's all the way at the top. Okay. Yes, this vote is minus the 4 people from Braddock. Yes. Okay, last call for votes. The motion to approve new voting and associate members carries. Thank you. All right. See how we can, as it's 9:49, I'm just imagining us being in a school somewhere. The janitor's hovering, waiting for us to get out. The next order of business is duties of FCDC officers and committees. This document was recommended for approval by the chair. I mean, the steering committee owns this document per the bylaws. And it was one of the items that was shared previously in the email. This is considered administrative. Oh, I guess I have to open it this way. This is considered an administrative resolution to approve this, and as such, the rules for discussion of a resolution apply. And so as it was created by steering, it is on the floor. We do not need a motion or a second for it. And the floor is now open for discussion of the duties. And I see Sue Rosenberg has her hand raised first.
Yes, I would say that I would go for approval of this as long as the changes that were voted down the bylaws are corrected. So it's an administrative decision.
Yeah, I think that probably goes without saying. But yes, some of the things the positions that were not changed based off of the renaming, in particular, voter registration and education, which appears in this document, would not be revised to be voter registration and education. It would just be it would be revised. So this deletion would not apply, as an example. George Becerra is next.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Question, Brian. I'm going to bring up the topic I brought up about a year ago or so about the minutes from steering given to the members. And I know at that time you had mentioned we didn't have to go through a bylaws change or a duties and responsibilities change. And it did start off that we were receiving them. I just want to put it, we have no recording secretary. I know we had a quick brief email chat and I appreciate the information, but I'd like to see if we can bring that duty somehow to the recording secretary after steering votes on the final minutes for the previous month that it's given to the membership. So it shows accountability, transparency, and what steering is doing, and that's it, information.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. I know that we were doing it well for a while, and maybe we have fallen off on that again. Please just hold us to account on that. Matt Bell is next. Go ahead, Matt.
Congratulations, Brian, on your reelection. And I think your meeting time has now surpassed the Cesar versus Sue election. So I'll keep it brief. In this document, I didn't see the environmental chair. Is that supposed to be there?
Say that again. Environmental committee is not in here. Is that what you're saying? Matthew?
Sorry, I remuted myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't see the environmental committee in there, Brian.
It may be the case that they have never been given duties and responsibilities. I know that was a committee that was created a while ago, and maybe there's just an oversight, but I don't believe it's in here. I think you're correct. Can't fix that now. We can ask the steering to look at that, but thank you for pointing that out. Liz Walker is next.
I was wondering if we could get the section on VRE updated to include education and information responsibilities there, because it was taken out.
The changes where the name of the committee would change, but otherwise because the bylaw supersedes this. But there weren't changes that there are not really changes in here that change the duties of the voter registration and education committee.
Well, there isn't really an area that addresses the education component or the information component of that specifically that I could see.
Provide training and materials to districts, committees, precinct operations, etc. Bill Bergson's next.
Okay.
You have to unmute.
Whether there's any new business possible, but I know that on social media, a lot of Democrats are concerned that the National Party is not vigorous enough in counterattacking the Republicans. And there is a DNC war room, and I would like us to urge the DNC war room to be expanded and much more vigorous.
Okay, but it was not germane to discussion. Right now, discussion is on whether or not we will, or whether or not we are approve these changes to the duties and responsibilities document.
I didn't see anything on the list for new business, so that's why I was.
Yeah, we have another meeting at the end of this month, our regular meeting, and there is a section of new business at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, no worries. Paul Jameson is next.
As you were scrolling by, I saw that the duties of the regional vice chairs was different than what was in the document that was dated December 5th on the duties. I don't have a problem with the additions to section D of that, but it was just surprising because that if that got changed, what else got changed from the December 5th document that got sent out to us in advance?
I'm not sure. This is what was changed in this. I mean, this was changed in the steering committee meeting. This plus the changes to the National Affairs Committee, plus and I'm probably making anyone else right. This section in National Affairs Committee was changed. And then there were various places where work in tandem with the vice chair of outreach to host at least 2 community events were missed in the removals. So those were removed. But I think those are the only changes that were made in steering to this document. So potentially I believe those are the only changes that possibly could be missed if there's a discrepancy. Chris Ambrose is next.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on, I think the duties, I was just following up on the earlier comment, the duties on the voter registration and education, that's what we're continuing to call it, are sound. The core issue, and I don't know what came up about changing the name, but it really has, I'm nothing against education, but the core function of that position always has been registering voters. And there's been a large sense of people who feel that we don't need to do that anymore because there's online registration. We used to register well over 1,000 a year. So I think those duties are good, and we've got to really stay on that focus, because even though there's online registration, you've got to remember the real people that we need to reach, the ones who are not online, and those people we need to continue to reach, and we haven't been doing it over the past few years. So that was what I just wanted to say that about those duties. I think are just right.
Okay, Dan Press.
I was just going to move to make the amendments that you just made to the VRE duties.
I'm not considering them amendments. I think it's just corrections based off of the failed bylaws change.
I'll take that as a ruling of the chair, and
we can move on, hopefully.
Go with it. Yeah.
Brad Swanson is next. Go ahead, Brad.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You can now. Very good. So I would like to know if we can vote on the proposed changes to FCDC duties of the Voter Registration Education Committee separately, given that we didn't change the name of the committee earlier in this meeting, and there are in this draft a couple places where education has been stricken. So is that something we can actually separate out and vote on separately? And if so,
it was just my ruling that the rejection of and education in the 3 places where and education was removed kind of made it not necessary to do that. Okay. If you would like to, if that's okay.
No,
we
can
just refer. I just wanted to refer
that what's in there now is not going to be in there after we vote on this. The words "and education" are going to be put back because the draft right now doesn't have them. Okay, in that case, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
go ahead.
I couldn't exactly see, but I was afraid that some changes had been substantially made, and I see that they were not. I pass.
Okay. And last but not least, Alex Rodriguez. Hearing nothing from Alex.
I'm here. I'm here to call the question again.
Well,
That's
there are no more hands raised. So if there's no more discussion, we don't
okay,
even
then
need to
let's
vote on that.
vote on it.
Let's just vote on it. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'll stop sharing then and we can pull up the poll. Okay, and that is to motion to approve the proposed amendments to the duties of FCDC officers and committees with the correction of the voter registration and education is completely included. Okay, last call for votes. And it looks like one person voted against it. Okay. I do actually have, and I should have gone to this before I went to the other business, but in a correction of election of officers, or in a correction of the vacancy in recording secretary, I would like to open nominations for recording secretary. And recognize Deborah Woolen.
Yes. Is this the part where I introduce myself or just say I'd like to be nominated?
Yes, just say you want to be nominated.
I'm sorry?
Just say you want to be nominated for now.
I would like to be nominated.
Okay, are there any other nominations for recording secretary? Hearing no additional nominations, nominations are closed. And Deborah, do you want to say anything briefly about yourself before we potentially vote on you? And I guess I might need to re-add you. Hold on a second.
I have served, I'm currently on state and local. I was also on the Black Caucus. And I'll be brief. That's it. Thanks so much. Good night.
All right, thank you. All right, we can, I think we have a poll now to approve Deborah by acclamation. Sorry, I found it. Okay, last call for votes. And Deborah wins the award for only unanimous vote so far. So congratulations. We're getting close there. Okay, the last item of business is a resolution from the FCDC State and Local Standing Committee to oppose Attorney General-elect Miarz's anti-justice reform proposal. And I would like to recognize, which was also recommended for approval by the steering committee. And Nora, I am looking for you to speak first.
Hey, Brian, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
so this resolution was brought to us by Steve Toscano's team. I think he was on earlier, but is gone now. So I envy him. If another member of his team is here to speak, that would be great as well. But yeah, we basically just want to support Steve and our Democratic Commonwealth's attorneys in their yeah, just like sort of endorse like their ability to do their job and not have it be superseded by the Attorney General-elect Miarz. So yeah, with that, I will pass it over to the next speaker.
Okay. And I did invite our Commonwealth's attorney to speak on this, but I told him sillily that we would probably be there by about like 8:30 or 9. So maybe he's already left. We do have hands raised for discussion. Ed Levine.
Thank you. I basically approve this proposed resolution, but I have a question about one part of it. I don't understand why either we or Mr. Toscano would benefit from our taking on the Fraternal Order of Police. So I wonder whether it could be considered a friendly amendment to drop out the words like the Fraternal Order of Police. Thank you.
Unfortunately, by the rules that we have for resolutions currently, without suspending the rules, we can't make it an amendment to this motion. So we can either accept this as it is with that concern, or we could return it to a committee for consideration, a change. But I think the concern is that we're heading into session. So Francis Canavan is next.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was going to, in fact, make a motion to strike the very words that the previous speaker just addressed. May I ask what in the rules prevents this from being amended?
So our standing rules for resolutions prevent amendments from the floor. You could move to suspend the rules and remove Fraternal Order of Police, and that would require a 2/3 vote to make that such a change.
That's what I understand. I would like to make that motion if it's timely at this time and speak to it.
Sure. Sure. We do have seconds. So it is on the floor for discussion. So go ahead.
Thank you. The concern I had was that this language, well, first I support the resolution and the thrust of it. I think we understand what it is all about. When I read it, those words jumped out at me. What this does is it essentially says that the Fraternal Order of Police is a far-right political organization. In today's parlance, far right is used synonymously with extremism, extreme right, etc. It's just a common, it's often used anonymously. I don't think the organization is fairly described as extremist, and I think the resolution, and I don't think we really mean that, but in the common parlance, that's what it says. And this is an organization that was the president of the FOP in November, was invited to the White House with President Biden for a signing ceremony for some legislation they were interested in October, on the 40th anniversary of what is called the National Peace Officers Memorial Service. President Biden was the keynote speaker, and he made a point in his remarks of noting his longtime relationship with the FOP executive director. And I bring those two facts up just to note that I think most voters would not apply the word extremist to the FOP, but this resolution and a thesaurus will open up our candidates, I think, to the charge that the Democratic Party in Fairfax County has designated the police as an extremist organization. And such a charge doesn't have to be fair. It just has to be plausible.
Okay,
And I don't want us.
That's your time. Sorry. Rules do. Is there someone who wants to speak in favor of keeping the fraternal order of police in? I guess I'll ask Nora.
I think that the main thing with this resolution is that Steve's team would like it to pass at this meeting so that they can use it as support in a strategy of belief for the upcoming session. But I think it's important that it passes now and that it couldn't wait. So if removing that that sentence there would help people to pass it tonight, I fully endorse that and support that friendly amendment.
Okay, so we do need to, because it is a vote that requires a 2/3 vote, then we need to actually have we can in a single motion vote to suspend the rules and amend or to amend to remove the Fraternal Order of Police and from this resolution. So do we have a poll for that? We need to and amend the resolution. Do you want me to do it or? Okay. All right. So to be clear, this is a single vote. We need a 2/3 majority to amend the resolution as such. Okay, last call for votes. Okay, the motion to suspend the rules and amend the resolution passes. And now we are back on this resolution as amended with the Fraternal Order of Police and removed. And there are 6 minutes of discussion on this resolution remaining. Mary Barthelson is next.
Thank you. I think that we need to actually wait until we have more members present because it's getting pretty late now. A lot of people have left. I want to make sure that we actually go over the wording in more detail. Right now in Reston, we're having difficulties with staffing police, and right now we had to close our work release program. So I want to make sure with the scrutiny that we've gotten on this topic that we really have input from everyone on the wording. I don't think that we need to pass it tonight and push it through.
Okay. Shamli is next.
Hey, yeah, I was just saying I want the fraternal order of the police removed from that. There are a couple of other items that people have pointed out that, whether or not we should refer to Trump in there, or remove that piece. And so, could you put the words back up on the screen so we can take a look?
Yeah, I mean, my desire is not to wordsmith this. If we have to remove things, we can, but it's only 10:16.
I know. I hear you. But I also don't want to get us into hot water, so.
Okay, is there anything else, or can I move on? I know Sandra has something. Go ahead, Sandra.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I wanted to say we've suspended the rules. I think once suspending the rules, it opens it to discussion on several amendments, not just the one. Am I not correct? In which case, I think since we've suspended the rules and Nora says this needs to happen now, maybe we go ahead and on this one occasion, since we suspended the rules, we do edit it. And I would like to also, I put early in, all resolutions need to have a title, which I put in a title earlier. And I seconded it with the title. So I'd like to introduce as an amendment the title I put in at 10:06 and suggest that we go ahead and make if this has to go in now, make other amendments to it to get it right. Otherwise, if that isn't agreed upon, I would suggest we remand it to committee to redo it. But doesn't the amendment, since we passed the motion to suspend the rules, isn't that to allow amendments from the floor, all of them that need to be made? That would be my number one question.
I mean, there was kind of some, it wasn't as specific in the wording that I really wanted it to be, but so I think that what we actually voted on was to suspend the rules and amend. So I believe that would suspend the rules of. Sorry, I'm trying to type in.
Yeah, and the purpose of that special rule and the 2/3 to amend was to provide an opportunity for a rush job when we had a rush job due to time considerations, so that it could in fact be edited from the floor, although we don't want to do this on a regular basis. But if it is time sensitive and we have suspended the rules on this occasion, perhaps the committee would want to go ahead and make the edits quickly to get it done. If not, then I move we send it back to committee. But I think the will I'm getting of the committee is they want to get the amendments done tonight and get it out.
Well,
in which case, my amendment is the title that should have been there in the first place. So,
okay, so adding a title is amended without objection. Francis Canavan.
Yes, just briefly, with respect to the earlier concern expressed about any issues that we might have with the Fraternal Order of Police or police practices and procedures, et cetera, I would just make the point, striking this language is not meant to indicate in any way how we feel about those issues. I don't think it weakens in any sense the position that the party has taken with respect to police reform, et cetera. It's simply in this particular resolution and in this issue, the reference to the Fraternal Order of Police is not needed. And to delete it is in no way to suggest that we're taking substantive positions on issues of the need for police reform, in my judgment. Thank you.
Ken Wheeler.
Yeah, the
this particular edit around fraternal order of police needs to be strike the word like the fraternal order of police, period, and leave the and in. If you take out the Trumpist part of it, then you really should just strike everything between allies and over the will of Fairfax County voters. Those are basically the two edits, but right now the edit that you put in is wrong.
I mean, allies period leaves a sentence fragment like National Trumpist Republicans over the will of Fairfax
No,
County
it's
voters.
like it's allies and far-right political allies and National Trumpist Republicans.
Oh, okay. I think that can be done without objection. I think that's clear. I just struck out the wrong parts of that. But I don't want us to spend more time wordsmithing this. We only have 1 minute remaining on discussion of this. And other people have already spoken. Leslie Mason's the only one who has not spoken. Leslie?
Emphasizes him as well.
Sorry, I only heard emphasizes.
How about we put a period after Miera's last name? Such a law would constitute an unparalleled and unconstitutional power grab that prioritizes the policy agenda of Attorney General-elect Miera's, period. And I think that's far more, what's the word I'm looking for? It sounds like stronger language.
I don't want us to sit here and edit this to death. We already have.
I don't think we're editing it to death. I think a period after Miera's is fine. And I think it makes that whole paragraph even stronger. We don't have to compare it to him to the Fraternal Order of Police nor Trump. I think that sentence stands alone is much stronger in the resolution.
I mean, I don't know that that's going to be done without objection. You're saying to remove the rest of the sentence?
That's correct. Everything after that's correct, right? Just as you have it, correct. And again, I think it makes that statement that much stronger as well.
Okay, there is a second for the proposed amendment, and you've already spoken in favor of it. Is there anyone who wants to speak against such Leslie's recommendation? It's hard to tell who just raised their hand for the purpose of speaking against it, but okay, Kathy Rem.
Thanks, Brian, and everyone. I think Shamli said something earlier along the lines of leaving in the will of the voters. I think it's important that we're highlighting the will of our Fairfax County voters. But I would like to agree with everyone here who said we should remove Trumpist Republicans. So policy agenda of Attorney General Miera's is far-right political allies over the will of Fairfax County voters. So I would like to make a motion that we suspend the rules to approve that edit.
Well, I guess you're making a substitute motion.
I see, yes. Thank you, sorry.
So you're leaving in far-right political allies, but just over the will of
Over the will
voters.
of Fairfax County voters. Yes, thank you.
Okay, there's the subsequent motion, which has been seconded, but we cannot have another amendment of this amendment. But but we can vote on this. Is there anyone who wants to speak against this? I'm seeing hands go away. Okay, Jack. I don't know if you've been following along, but we need a motion to substitute the amendment to, I hate Robert and his rules of order. I hate him. But I will say that that we have met the length of time on this discussion permitted on a resolution, and after this this change, we will. Yes, we will vote on the substance of. Right. Well, this let's just. I do love you all. I'm trying to, we're trying to get through this. But yes, the substitute is to replace the amendment, or yes, it really is to replace the amendment to make it this. So really we need to vote on the replacing of the amendment. So let's just do we have a poll for that? Yeah, okay. Okay, this is going to be speed voting here. Okay, last call for votes. Okay, the substitute of the amendment passes, and now we are going to vote on. I think we're just going to vote on the resolution as amended, just for clarity's sake. I think that's probably the easiest and simplest to do now, right? So, okay. Do we have that? Oh, I guess I can stop sharing. Yeah, I need a glass of wine. Okay, the poll is launched now, and this is a motion to adopt the resolution opposing Jason Maria's anti-justice reform proposal as amended. The motion to abstain is, or if you would have liked to abstain on this, do not vote yes or no. Yes, and I think I usually say that at the beginning of the meetings, but I forget to do that now. So, last call for votes. Okay, the motion to adopt the resolution carries, and that concludes the business of the reorganization meeting. We do have a section for announcements. So if you do have an announcement like Tora, please be very brief. Tora Arsala is recognized first.
Hey, Brian, first of all, thank you for leading a very great meeting tonight, and congrats on your election. I'll keep it brief. Hey, folks, I'm a disabilities advocate, and I'd like to work on starting a disabilities caucus for FCDC, as we need to advocate for folks with disabilities so we can have inclusion in FCDC. Thank you so much, and I'll be reaching out to committees and starting out a plan to get this plan moving to start a disability caucus. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tora. Next is Maggie Godbold.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just a very quick announcement. I am going to be giving a, hopefully in person, fundraiser for Congressman Jennifer Wexton. It's on Saturday, February 5th at 5 p.m. and it is in the FCDC calendar, and I will in a couple of seconds post the link. Please join me and help us re-elect Jennifer Wexton. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maggie. Next is, and I will say that Congressman Don Byer says that he hears that the peak will be in the next 5 days or so. So hopefully things will be looking up soon. Andy Pavord.
Hi, I'd just like to tell everybody about our chair chats. On January 18th, we're having school board members Carl Frisch and Rashna Sizemore, and we're going to talk about some of the school board issues. I put the link in the chat. And then on February 9th, we're having a discussion with Congressman Jerry Connolly, and it's entitled The Future of Democracy, 1 year after the insurrection with Congressman Jerry Connolly. We'd love for all of you to attend either or both of these events. Everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Oh, Jim McBride is next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just put in the chat. There's a Zoom link on Monday. There's going to be a 11th District Democrats meeting. I just joined the 11th District Democrats as the result of redistricting, and I plan to run for the committee. I don't know who else is going to be running, but I'm hoping that anybody with good ideas will consider it, and we'll attend the meeting on Monday. There might be some votes on the procedure for the election in February. So there might be ways to have your voice heard on at the meeting about how the election is run. So please join us.
All right, thanks. Ali Dalsimer. No, I might need to ask you to unmute. There we go.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. For folks who don't know, I'm Ali Dalsimer. I'm running for Congress in Virginia's 11th District, and we will be having a fundraiser for the campaign on February 6th. I've got to save the date on the monthly calendar, and we'll be adding details over the next couple of weeks. We want to make sure that it's a safe event, so we're trying to see what happens with Omicron and COVID rates right now. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ali. Looks like next is Ed Rice.
Good evening, all who remain. I have found it very basically disabling to the utility of this meeting to have no ability to copy from the chat, to pull text out and save it in a file. And when people post in 4-line URLs and expect somebody to set that aside for future use, that can't be done. It's also disabled for people to do a find in the chat. So if somebody says, what Sue said was very important, and I want to go back and find Sue and previous mentions by Sue of something, I can't do that. I'd like to ask that these limitations on what people can do in the Zoom meeting be removed, not set up, because there's no reason. The meeting is a public meeting, and people can do screen captures on anything that's in the chat. And there's no reason to not allow people to copy the text out of the chat and save it for future reference. It's no worse or better than being able to screen capture it and use that for future reference. So there's no security issue, there's no privacy issue. It's just disabling to the use of the meeting during the meeting.
Thanks, Ed. I don't know that that's necessarily intentional. I think it might just be default capability. But I believe we could provide a transcript of the chat to you or to anyone who requests it.
Yeah, every other Zoom that I've ever been in, other than FCDC, has allowed people to, for example, highlight 3 items in the chat and copy them out into a separate file. In fact, in virtually every time that I have used Zoom, I have been able to do a save the chat and put the whole chat into a file on my computer. And it's not an abuse issue. It's not a privacy issue.
Okay, thank you. I said it again. I don't believe
Yeah.
it was our intent to do that.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So there being no further business before the committee, we are adjourned. Our next meeting, oh, it's a county reorganization meeting. Whoops. Our next county committee meeting is later this month, on January 25th. Our next meeting is January 25th, 2022, also on Zoom. Thanks for everyone who stuck in there till the end, and I hope everyone stays safe, and has a good night, good rest of the week. Thank you, everyone.